Son Ye-jin just turned 44, and this time people truly stopped. Not because of her age, not because of a luxurious birthday celebration, not because of carefully styled photos or dramatic headlines. They stopped because of who Son Ye-jin has become, and because of what was quietly said about her at exactly this moment. On the day she turned 44, Hyun, a man known across the industry for protecting his private life with almost absolute silence, spoke about his family. There was no announcement, no emotional framing, no attempt to turn the moment into a spectacle. Just a few calm sentences, and somehow that was enough to hold people's attention far longer than noise ever could. Because when someone who rarely speaks chooses to speak, every word carries weight. Son Ye-jin enters her 44th year at a stage that feels unusually grounded. She is no longer everywhere. She is no longer constantly visible. She is no longer chasing momentum for the sake of momentum. She is present, intentionally. That alone makes this birthday different. Instead of asking how she looks at 44, people began asking something else entirely. Why has Son Ye-jin been loved for so long? From the beginning of her career, Son Ye-jin was never built on excess. She did not rely on controversy to stay relevant. She did not lean into provocation. She did not construct her image around extremes. Her career grew quietly, steadily, and with discipline. And over time, something rare happened. The public did not simply admire her. They trusted her. Trust does not come from constant exposure. It comes from restraint. At 44, Son Ye-jin embodies restraint in its clearest form. She does not try to recreate youth. She does not compete with time. She does not chase trends that no longer belong to her. She occupies her place naturally. And that natural confidence, unforced and unspoken, has become her strongest presence. This birthday did not arrive with spectacle. There were no extravagant parties shared online, no curated luxury meant to impress, no emotional letters crafted for virality. Instead, there was something quieter. Messages appeared slowly. Fans wrote short wishes. They did not praise beauty. They did not idolize success. They wished her health. They wished her peace. They wished her a life lived without pressure. For someone who has spent decades under constant observation, those wishes say everything. They show that the audience no longer sees Son Ye-jin as an image. They see her as a person, and that kind of connection does not fade quickly. After marriage and becoming a mother, Son Ye-jin chose to slow down, deliberately. She did not turn motherhood into a storyline. She did not offer personal moments for emotional effect. She did not rush back into work to reassure the public. She stepped back. In an industry driven by speed, stepping back is often seen as risky. Visibility is treated as value. Silence is misunderstood as absence. But Son Ye-jin's silence did not weaken her presence. It refined it. She did not disappear. She recalibrated. She became more selective. She appeared less frequently. She allowed her life to expand beyond her career. And in doing so, she quietly redefined what longevity can look like in entertainment. This context matters, because Hyunbin's words did not appear in isolation. They arrived at a moment when Son Ye-jin's life had clearly shifted, from relentless forward motion to thoughtful balance. Hyunbin did not choose her birthday to create attention. He simply spoke honestly when asked. He said that after marriage, his priorities changed. That what matters most now is his wife and their child. That family comes before himself. The words were simple, but the delivery was firm. No hesitation, no embellishment, no performance, just clarity. For many public figures, personal statements are carefully shaped. For Hyunbin, silence has always been his default. For years, he avoided discussing relationships. He declined to comment on speculation. He refused to turn intimacy into content. That is why these words mattered. They were not spoken to persuade anyone. They were spoken because they were true. He did not describe romance. He described responsibility. He did not speak about emotion. He spoke about choice. And that distinction resonated. At a time when Son Ye-jin is navigating motherhood while preparing to return to acting, Hyunbin emphasized something rarely highlighted in celebrity narratives: stability. He spoke about support, about easing pressure. about mental well-being being more important than urgency. He did not frame her career as something that needed protection or explanation. He framed her well-being as the foundation of everything else. That perspective struck a chord, especially in an industry where women are often expected to return quickly, physically, professionally, publicly. His words quietly pushed back against that expectation. What stood out just as much was what he did not say. He did not claim perfection. He did not present their life as ideal. He did not suggest balance is effortless. He acknowledged change, and that honesty gave the moment depth, because people recognized it as real. The public reaction reflected that. There was no explosion of debate, no aggressive speculation, no polarized commentary. Instead, there was calm. Messages continued to appear, but the tone shifted. Age was not the focus. Fame was not the focus. People spoke about peace, about health, about freedom. Sun Ye-jin was no longer being discussed as a symbol of youth or nostalgia. She was seen as a woman who had lived through many chapters and remained grounded. In Korea, birthday messages appeared quietly. Digital screens displayed simple greetings. Her agency received flowers and handwritten notes. Nothing excessive, nothing overwhelming, but consistent. And consistency is the clearest sign of lasting connection. These gestures were not about excitement. They were about respect. This birthday did not feel loud. It felt settled. It felt like a pause rather than a peak, a moment to acknowledge alignment rather than achievement. Alignment between who Sun Ye-jin is and how she chooses to live. At 44, Sun Ye-jin does not need to prove relevance. She does not need to defend her pace. She does not need to explain her choices. Her life speaks clearly. She has reached a point where presence matters more than visibility. Beside her, Hyun Bin does not stand as a public symbol. He stands as a partner who understands timing, who understands responsibility, who understands that some things do not need to be said until they do. His words were not meant to define their relationship for the public. They simply confirmed something quietly powerful, that behind the industry, behind the lights, behind the attention, there are still relationships built on daily decisions. Decisions to prioritize, decisions to protect, decisions to slow down. And perhaps that is why this story stayed with so many people, not because it was dramatic, not because it was emotional, but because in a world that moves too fast, sincerity still has the power to make us stop and stay. And for Sun Ye-jin, turning 44 was not about age. It was about arrival. Arrival at a place where nothing needs to be rushed, where nothing needs to be proven, where life, finally, can be lived at its own pace,